Fire Punch is a manga that I completed reading recently, and I really enjoyed it. So I wanted to take the opportunity to make a little review of it here. This will be spoiler free, so if you have not read it, then no worries, you're good to watch. So let's talk about it. What exactly is Fire Punch? Fire Punch is a manga by Tatsuki Fujimoto, who now is more well known for his Shonen Jump hit Chainsaw Man. I love Chainsaw Man, that was my first experience with Fujimoto, so as soon as I completed it, and in between the time it's gonna take for the anime and for the part 2 to come out, I wanted to check out some of his other manga, his other big one being Fire Punch. So I recently took the opportunity to do so, and I really enjoyed it. Fire Punch is a seinen manga that is 8 volumes long, so not a very long manga at all. What it manages to do in only those 8 volumes was very impressive to me, and frankly surprised me a lot with a lot of things I didn't really expect that just made my experience with it a lot better. So let's talk about the story. The Earth has essentially undergone another ice age at the hands of the Ice Queen. The entire Earth is snowing and frozen, and there's no real heat. And as you can imagine, society has really collapsed, turning into anarchy and having a bunch of little, small towns, militias, and bigger towns, but rule through power and force. It's a very dark setting, but I think it is done very well and is very interesting. Now our story focuses on Agni, who is our protagonist. Now Agni lives in a kind of remote village with his sister, Luna. Now of course, since with the way the world is, food is hard to come by, so they have to, eat Agni. Now, another quirk of this world is that there are people known as blessed, and these blessed have certain powers. Agni and Luna's being the power of regeneration. They can regenerate their limbs. So, by Agni repeatedly cutting off his limbs and regenerating, people can eat his flesh. So, as you can tell, very dark already. This is still only chapter 1, and we have, cannibalism going on. And now Agni is the one who mainly does this. He does not want his sister doing it, so she doesn't have to feel the pain, because Agni cares about his sister a lot. Maybe a little too much sometimes. But one day, these people show up to their village, and one of these people is Doma. He is also a blessed, but he has a different power. His blessed is fire. He can set anything on fire, and whatever gets lit on fire will not go out until the thing that has been lit on fire is gone, completely been burned. So after learning of this village's ways and secrets, he attacks Luna and Agni, setting both of them on fire. And of course, as you imagine, with their regeneration power and the fire, no matter how much they burn, they keep regenerating back. However, Luna's is not as strong as Agni's, so she eventually does die. However, Agni is just able to keep regenerating it off and lives as a man on fire, and from here on sets out on his quest for revenge against Doma. And from there, going on his sort of revenge to try and find Doma, he of course goes to many different places and towns where we get to see more of the world and how things works and meet quite the insane cast of characters. And the story is not just your simple, bloodthirsty revenge plot. There's a lot of dives into the psychology and minds of not only Agni, but several of the characters, so you can see how the way they think about the world with this messed up setting, how much their minds are gone, and as well as they reflect on the things they've done in their actions and what they want from the future, particularly in the second half of Fire Punch, becomes very introspective, and frankly was not something I expected from this manga, but I'm so glad that we did have it, because it is absolutely fantastic. Fujimoto once again proves that he can tell a great story in such a little amount of chapters. As I said, it's only 8 volumes, but these 8 volumes are able to do so much. If it was a bit longer, it could explore a little more more on some of the characters, particularly the side ones, which I was disappointed with some of the side characters and wish they got a little more, but I'm fine with how it is because it allows the story and the pacing to be great. So let's talk about the characters now. Before I talk about any of them more specifically, I would just like to say all of these characters are bad people. Morally bad, they do bad things, they're criminals, killers, manipulators. This is a very, very dark series. If you're not a fan of dark stuff, then should you read Fire Punch? Hell no. Stay away, because it does not pull any punches. And I think that is good because when you have this post-apocalyptic setting, then I think, if you didn't show how dark and messed up it would be when chaos and anarchy would reign, it just wouldn't feel very believable. But because of how dark and messed up it is, it makes the setting feel much more believable and makes the actions of all these characters that much more interesting, as you can see how they're influenced by the world and how certain characters challenge that and create some really cool character dynamics later on. Of course, you have our protagonist, Agni. I very much enjoyed Agni. He starts out fairly simple, as you see him as just, sort of a crazed revenge maniac, but I'm very happy to say that he evolves into much more beyond that, particularly in the second half when he takes a bit of a step back from his current life and really reflects, and you get to see a lot into his mind and makes him really interesting. Despite maybe not being a traditionally likable character, he's still a very good and interesting one just because of how much you get to see into his mindset, which I really liked, because something I really appreciate in a character is when they're, crazy and insane, but there's sort of a method to the madness. They're not just crazy to be crazy, they have a lot more going on behind the scenes, so when that is explored in a character, I absolutely love it, and that's something Fire Punch does excellently. And with another character, sort of our not quite other protagonist, but main supporting character, Togata. I loved Togata. They were such a fun character, from spouting movie references all the time, to doing just insane things, to basically turning Agni into the protagonist of her own self-made movie and manipulating him to do things that would be more entertaining for her movie. She just makes Fire Punch so much more interesting when she is on the pages. I did find Fire Punch a little bit slow before she got introduced, but she doesn't take that long to get introduced, maybe like 10 chapters if that, so it's really not too long, and once she got introduced, I hit a stride of just reading, and just blowing through it. And then, of course, we have our other main antagonist, Doma. Now, Doma is a little hard to talk about without spoiling, but I will say that I really, really liked the direction that Fujimoto took his character, and I think allowed for a lot of interesting conversations to be had, and as well as plot points and things in the manga that really helps the themes of Fire Punch be that much more powerful. He was a pretty good character despite his limited screen time. Then of course we have some other side characters, some of the ones I can remember being Sun, Neneto, the Ice Queen, and they're all fill their role and are solid, but this kind of goes back to what I was alluding to earlier, where I would have liked a little more time if possible with some of these, but with the way Fire Punch wanted to go, I can accept these characters not being as fleshed out as they maybe could have. The only one I would really argue I kind of needed more from, personally, was perhaps the Ice Queen being another sort of central antagonistic figure, but it is what it is. Now, the artwork in Fire Punch, I think, is really, really good for the most part. Fujimoto is a master of drawing action. His action scenes flow so well with the paneling and the choreography and makes for some really, really cool panels. His spreads of the environment are very great. They really give you that feeling of wanting to pause and look at them, which is, I think what you'd want from a spread, so he succeeds there. The only kind of critique I have of the art in here would potentially be the character designs. Now, you can't make super dripped out characters in a post-apocalyptic setting, I understand that, but I do feel like some of the characters don't really stand out enough, especially some of the side ones. I maybe wouldn't recognize them right away after they showed up once and then showed up again, and would kind of have to wait for their name to be said or something, as well as some of the characters can be drawn to look kind of samey, but that is intentional most of the time, so it's not really a problem per se, but I would have liked some of the character designs to stick out more. And now, this was the part that surprised me the most about Fire Punch, is that Fire Punch is deep. Fire Punch explores lots of concepts and way of thinking about life, like existentialism, nihilism. I have my own interpretation of it, as well as I've seen many others from either friends I know who have read it or people online, and I've seen lots of different ones, but all are equally valid and make sense. And I think it's really cool that this story is able to have so many people take so many different things away from it, and is really impressive, honestly, and something that I really liked. At the end of the day, Fire Punch is a story about being human and kind of assessing what the most important things are in life. As shown earlier in the manga by this way of life being seen as terrible, barbaric, chaotic, really stepping back and seeing, hey, what are the main reasons it's like this way? What are the most important things? And it's really, really cool. Fujimoto somehow is able to tell really human stories with characters who can seem anything but. And I think that's maybe his most impressive quality as a mangaka. So at the end of the day, Fire Punch is a manga that is not for everybody. If you like dark stories, as well as, to do a little bit of thinking with, some powerful themes and questions. It's a very, very good manga that really surprised me, and I would absolutely recommend it if you like that kind of stuff. I'm feeling a 8 to 9 out of 10 on Fire Punch. I really did enjoy it. I don't know if I like it more than Chainsaw Man, but the fact with how much I like Chainsaw Man, I think the fact I can have that conversation says a lot. This was really, really good, and I'm really glad that I got to experience more Fujimoto, and he's quickly rising on my list of favorite mangaka. So, I think that's about it for me. If you've read Fire Punch, leave a comment below what you thought about it or whatnot. I'd love to talk about it. Like and subscribe if you want to. Check me out on Instagram in the description. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace out.